Hello Sloppers, it's Mr. E here with Sloptide News Network, and it's been a while since we have had a good Sloptide news sesh, probably because the Arbides has been consuming so much of everyone's attention. But we have hotfix 70 in front of us here, and there's only a couple important things to glean out of today's news, but I did want to use this opportunity to speak to my public as well. So firstly, let's get this news out of the way. We have some fixes here, a good number of fixes, right? But there's only a couple that really are going to be of any interest to most players. The first one that I want to focus on is the banter frequency. Many players had noticed that the Arbides especially were almost dead silent throughout most of the missions, which was sad because it's hard and interesting to kind of find those new interactions between the classes, and they promised that with this new update we would hear more banter between classes, and I found that was not the case. So they have increased that banter, which will be very nice, and hopefully we can hear some more of these RBB's lines because the few that I've heard are quite funny. And then we have a change to Psyker is the next big thing I want to focus on. So fixed an issue where Psyker on critical hit talents would trigger when burn stacks are active on enemies. So what was going on before was that when you apply a flame stack to an enemy, and on that application of the stack, if you rolled a crit, it would count every tick of that flame as another crit. And so for passives like metal here on the Psyker talent tree, critical hits replenish 5% toughness and grant movement speed. And where is it? There it is. Empathic evasion. A critical hit makes you count as dodging against range attacks for 1 second. This was inadvertently a massive, massive buff, because as long as those flame stacks stayed on those enemies and were ticking that one crit stack that you applied, then you would be very fast, be regenerating your toughness at a constant rate, and you would be counted as dodging against range attacks. So it gave you a lot of powerful effects, and it was just one more way in which the flame staff or just general soul flame application on the Psyker is just the premier way to play. So this is no longer the case. They said just fixed an issue, right? For a lot of Psyker players, they're probably taking that as a nerf. I mean, it is just a straight nerf for their power level, which is kind of troubling because Psyker isn't exactly known for its resilience to damage, and now it's taking even more hits in that category. But this is something that they are now acknowledging was a bug and was not intended, and so it is now fixed. So make certain that you are accommodating your builds and your playstyle for that, Psykers. Then we also have the removal of the radio operator from the elitist penance. So if you are a penance chaser, then you were probably getting quite annoyed, especially if you just picked up the game. With the elitist penance, you have to kill a certain number of each type of elite, and there was one for killing the radio operator in there. And the radio operator is no longer with us in the game, RIP. He was only part of a recent event, and maybe he'll be back at some point, but for now he's no longer in there. So I think that's just about everything in this area. One thing personally for me is they changed the visuals of the mission board. So they lightened the vignette effect and they reduced the pixelation on the mission board thumbnails, which is great because that thing is ugly as sin. So they actually kind of made that look a little bit better. I haven't looked at it yet myself, but at least making those things be visible what you're actually looking at. I get what they were going for, with it being like a computer monitor, like old-timey CRT computer monitor, but it looked like shit. So I'm glad they're fixing that. Then we have a new difficulty being added to the game, more or less. Auric is what I'll call it from here on out. So there is a new high intensity added, which will be active during high intensity missions on the Auric difficulty. What this means is Auric used to be damnation with the guarantee of modifiers with high intensity applied. So, right, when you think back to previously, when you would go to the Auric page on the missions map, it would be all the same maps, but they would all have the little up arrow caret. They would all be high intensity, and then it would be like high intensity dogs or whatever. Now, that high intensity little up arrow caret is just by default. So when you select Auric, it is a damnation mission that is high intensity by default, and there is now a high intensity version of that high intensity. So you can get a high intensity shock troop gauntlet, high intensity Auric, and it's going to be a little bit even more spicy than it was before, is how I'm reading. I have to play some tonight to interpret whether or not it actually is any harder than it was before. But you can get auric non-high intensity now, which will be the previous Damnation high intensity, and you can get this extra high intensity, which I think is a good way to gradually move people upwards into auric maelstroms and eventually havoc. And then we have a few changes to cosmetics and animations, as there always are, and I think probably the most interesting thing for people is that they are adding in the ability to equip a good number of human generic cosmetics onto the arbitrators. So Pilgrim's Scroll Tube, which I have, I like that one a lot. The sconces thing, that I think that's the backpack with the big like swinging doors on it. And then we have like bionic eyes and ocular augments and stuff like that. So that's cool that players who have spent their Aquilas on these before are able to use them now. And yeah, that's everything for the patch notes, guys. So I hope you enjoyed that little breakdown there. So I guess this is the point in the video where I pivot to talking about more real serious stuff. This is no longer Mr. E presenting for Sloptide News Network. This is just Mr. E, like the real person, how I actually feel. This is the last day of Pride Month, and, you know, obviously I'll be back next year or whatever, but I wanted to cram one last queer facts in here and apologize to any of you who realized that I completely flaked on that concept, that I just did not stick the bit at all. I was whatever the opposite of consistent is, I guess inconsistent. RBDs just completely short-circuited my brain, and I am already ADHD brained as it is. So I don't want anyone to feel like I'm backing down from my commitment to the community. This month doesn't mean that my alliance ends with the queer community. June doesn't have any special bearings on how I feel as a person. I want this channel to be an inclusive space all year round. Unless you're a bigot, of course. Here's a queer facts for you. Bigots can fuck off. And I am very happy to have had like a couple dozen such people who self-identified during the month of June by removing themselves from my subscribers. And here's one. Joke's on you. That was actually my plan the whole time, because I, for one, want a space that's filled with actually nice and supportive, genuine people, and not hateful trolls or anti-woke 4chan warriors. And I understand that there are probably members in my community who are people who are like ambivalent or apathetic to this issue, and you might be one right now, and you might be rolling your eyes that I'm bringing it up here. And I got a couple of comments saying as such, this is a gaming channel, can we not do this whole politics thing? The way I see it is that the internet currently has an endless fucking cesspool of bigot grifters complaining about fucking pronouns and other stupid shit like that. And I am simply counter-programming to that nonsense. This is my space. It's our space, guys. And even though I joke about producing slop a good bit, I hope you can tell that at the end of the day, I put a lot of myself into this channel. And when there's something that I actually care about, I try to let it show. I care about you guys, girls, gays, and I'm very happy to have so many awesome and supportive people in my community. Expect a video coming up showcasing everyone who submitted for all of the contests for the RBDs. You guys blew me away with your support, and thank you so much. Thank you if you watched this far as well, and I hope you guys are as excited for July as I am. It's going to be a really, really big month for the channel, and remember that here on the Mystery Channel, we do take National Baked Bean Month very seriously. So every video on this month will have a baked bean recipe in the description. Thanks for watching, guys. Mystery out. Bye.